Hello, and welcome to another critical conversation. For this critical conversation, we are looking at and exploring how education has been impacted by COVID-19. Today, I am interviewing Kenyatta Lovett. He's going to give us his personal perspective as well as some insight on how COVID has affected higher education. Welcome, Kenyatta.
Thank you for having me, Wanda. Thank you for allowing me to talk with you.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Everybody's really busy. It's the top of the year. So I know, but it's important to document what's going on in our lives. The pandemic has changed things forever. So I'm just thankful to be able to talk to some of my colleagues, some of my friends, and get their stories on record.
Great. I'm looking forward to the questions and looking forward to providing you what I have for you.
Wonderful. So let's get started. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Kenyatta Lovett. Currently, I serve as the Assistant Commissioner of Workforce Services at the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. But prior to that, my roles have been in higher education in different forms and fashions, both in the public sector and also the nonprofit sector, working with all levels of higher education. I consider myself to be a proponent, advocate for economic mobility, social mobility. And so my work has not only included work that advances the causes for higher education, especially for those students that we consider to be underrepresented or underserved, but it's all the things that lead to a college student making it into college and also completing college, and then especially successfully entering into their career after college. Those aspects of life and policy are things that I work with. I have two daughters. One's a sophomore at Hampton. Yes, you can go ahead and celebrate. And freshman in high school, and both have demonstrated the resilience that we hope that our young students, young leaders will display during this time when it's. I think we can continue using the word unprecedented, especially after yesterday's aftermath, or the day before yesterday. Sorry.
Wow. So you have multiple perspectives. You can talk to us from your career in higher education and where you are now, knowing how it was and how it's impacting, especially as you said, those who are underrepresented. And you can talk to us about the multiple perspective with one in college and one in high school. So that's awesome. So let's dive in. So my first question to you is, in 2020, what was your experience with education, higher education, and with education for your children in 2020?
Sure, and it's been really interesting. Workforce development is not a career area that I've known for, and been one that I probably some people would know that I'd be have a steep learning curve because it's a little different than the world of higher education. But the vantage point has been very insightful in just my work as a professional. But what has really been interesting is my involvement with higher education through workforce development during this time. I think has proven to be fairly critical for the higher education arena in Tennessee and really nationally, but definitely informing and advancing some things that are going on in the workforce world as well. During the time around February or March, when reality was sinking in that we had a global pandemic that was going to impact the American way of life, I learned from my leadership experiences in the past that, anytime it looks like a tragedy, change the lens that you have on and look at it as an opportunity. There were a lot of people who I think were a little shell shocked in higher education about what this would mean for revenues, what this would mean for enrollment, what this would mean for a lot of aspects of what we know the college life to be. I took some lessons from previous experiences with, tragedies and emergencies and other situations, and look at it as an opportunity what is this presenting us right now? That is an opportunity that we need to seize. And, I began to immediately reach out to colleagues across the nation, speak on panels to give some encouragement that all of the things that we've talked about doing in higher education, we have no excuse but to do them now. We knew we needed to improve online education. We knew that online education was a way in which we could manage a larger load of students. Now's the time to improve the quality of online education. We knew that competency-based education was a way in which we could get students through quickly to demonstrate skills and move on to the next thing. Let's ramp that up as well. We knew a lot of different things about students of color, low-income students who, quite frankly, didn't perform as well in online education, or they didn't perform as well because of access points that weren't as available to them as others. Let's make that an opportunity to seize. And one of my arguments to a lot of higher education professionals was really centered on why do we need a semester? It doesn't matter in March. It literally means nothing right now in March what the end of the semester or the beginning of the semester means. Simply because if a student right now is sitting at home, they're probably going to just pound through a bunch of Netflix shows. They're watching some screen, probably 20 hours of a 24-hour day. If you were able to make available 10 courses, 5 courses at their own pace to complete, they might be able to get through it in an accelerated manner. And for those that were ready to, go through that battery of work in an accelerated manner, that gave you more attention to those who really needed you to focus on them to get them successfully through, high school, through college. So let's look at this as an opportunity. We've been talking about this for years. Now's the time to do it. And I think for a lot of, institutions, systems, leaders, they embraced it. But unfortunately, from my perspective, I think most decided, no, we're just going to go back and wait for things to blow over and just keep it traditional. And I think they've lost a lot because of that. One of the things that I engaged in was by July, I engaged with Coursera. And Coursera came in for the state of Tennessee, offered more than 4,000 college courses. I had almost 10,000 enrollments before the end of December of last year. And we saw individuals with the ability to go in at their own pace, start at their own time, to take courses to brush up on skills. But some actually earned credentials because there were credentials embedded within it, Google IT certifications, Microsoft certifications. Right. And the cool thing about it was that employers were plugged in to the system to know as soon as Wanda completed that Google IT certification, they would reach out to you. And I had a couple of stories where Tennesseans were communicated by employers and said, hey, you just completed your Google IT certification. Would you be open to coming to Bentonville for a job? And so, seizing this opportunity to really improve the higher education system has been, my longstanding, argument across the way. And I think the other thing too is we know the business model doesn't work for higher ed. We knew this before COVID-19. I think COVID-19 only just exacerbated, especially in 2020, the failings of our business model, where we really want you in the dorms. We'll teach you online, but we need you to give us that money for the dorm rooms and for the parking garages and things like that. That's what makes money for colleges that they can't go without. But the instruction part of it, we can do that online. So literally, there are colleges that are having students sitting in the dorms and taking online courses. So they're actually showing us what they valued over this time and the business model that just doesn't work for what we know to be, which is really all about teaching and learning, or what college should be about. So sorry for that long answer, but 2020 was, definitely an inflection point, an inspirational point for me that I pushed even forward in 2021.
So you stepped on some toes there, Kenyatta. I'm sure that there were some people who, hearing that vocalized in that way, had to face, like you said, some traditional systems within higher education. And sounds like some of them just went right back to what they were used to doing. But I'm glad that you were able to push that idea to help them move forward if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, and I think that the challenge too now is because this has been, prolonged, extended over, more than, probably will be definitely more than 12 months, the consumer behavior has changed. And so my fear for my colleagues who haven't changed is that they may not realize that consumer preferences have changed for higher education. Credentials, short-term credentials are the game right now. If I can go and take something over 3 months and earn $50,000 or $60,000 a year, you're going to have to give me a really strong proposition of why I need to pay you tens of thousands of dollars to stay somewhere for 4 years with the hope that I may get a job that pays me 40 right now in this economy. So, I think Coursera even said they have 35 million enrollments now. The preferences change, and even college students now who are taking online courses, I'm talking to them all the time, and they're questioning, why do I have to stay there that many months? Why can you just deliver this online and I could go live in Barcelona in some well-designed WeWork like dorm space for college students, and I could have travel experiences, get my teaching and learning experiences going on, but also have work experiences from different aspects of the world that really looks like the world versus me sitting in a classroom.
Thank you for that. So let's kind of flip the script on this, Kenyatta. So now you're the parent who is sending your child to Hampton University to sit in a dorm and do courses, some online, some in the classroom. Tell me from that perspective what the impact is.
I try to stay on top of my daughters and their, how their spirit is holding up, their resiliency. This is tough. I mean, I tell my college student daughter, I know you don't want to be at the house with us. I would. You're at an age where this is where you can socialize with friends, learn more about yourself, be away from home so you can, fully get into adulthood. Those aspects, I really, really do worry about for her, but I couldn't be more proud of how she sees the moment. She's, doing really, really well in school. I can't commend, the Hampton University leadership team enough for really calling the ball early for fall semester that it would be totally online, and also calling the ball early for spring semester, which will start, I believe, next week, that it will be totally online, which takes a lot of the pressure off of parents, takes the guesswork off of students, and make sure the institution can have some continuity in such an uncertain and unprecedented moment. But my focus right now is just making sure they're good. Then both my high school student and my college student, my daughters, they have a deep concern for those students who they know that are not engaged, especially my daughter who's in high school. They really worry because they know some are not showing up on the Zoom calls. Some are actually getting suspended on Zoom calls and expelled from this virtual setting. And lost learning is something that I preached in 2020 that I'll continue to preach, that we've got to have the courage as leaders in America to really come back and find out how we can replenish into students who have lost so much. It's not just the academic gains or losses, but it's also that social aspect that's vitally important to them being, successful, adults that contribute to American society.
Right. So I know some parents were overwhelmed with having to work at home, children at home, monitoring them, working online, school online. Did you find any challenges in that area? And you said your daughter in college, she didn't get to go off and have that experience. What has that been like, having everyone in the house?
It's been, we've managed. I actually only worked from home in April. And then we had another executive order where we as, state employees are encouraged to work from home until January the 19th, just recently because the case is spiking in Tennessee. But we've managed. What I did was actually I'm in their borrowed space. They'll kick me out soon because at least my high school student started yesterday. Spring semester, but basically I built out our bonus room and made it their space, especially for my daughter who's in college. TV, kind of a lounge area with desk, their own, their own spaces that they can handle their Zoom calls, curate their spaces behind them. So, however they want it to look. But I basically said, hey, I'm going to make this your space. I'll stay out of it. And this is a place where you can at least have fun, feel like you're away from us, and engage in school or whatever you need to. And that's helped. But they're pretty tenacious in how they go about, work and life and thinking about careers. So it's been pretty successful, and every now and then they'll get on me for being loud because of all of my meetings that I have back to back when I'm home. But it hasn't been too bad.
Okay, so in closing, can you tell us what are you taking into now, 2021, from your lessons learned from 2020? What are you taking in?
Yeah, so I think it's been confirmed. Some people would call me a panicker, worry ward, hairs on fire. But I think that doing what we know we can do, I think it's a confirmation for me to continue to push forward with that. People can always say, when is a pandemic really going to happen, Kenyatta? And then it happens. Or when are opportunities really going to be available like that? And then they're available. And I think being prepared has helped. Right now I manage about 600 people, and having to get them quickly shifted to working virtually was, no minor feat. When I first came in, I didn't have a lot of time working with this large group. I gave them things that I thought we need to urgently work on that they didn't understand. And now they get it, which has been able to help so many Tennesseans. I definitely want to reinvest more and more in short-term credentials and get those aligned with associate and bachelor degrees, and especially work with the non-credit part of universities and colleges to see how these short-term credentials can be really a viable pathway for adults, whether they're in adult education programs or they're high school students that are trying to find their way, or whoever it may be, or someone that's just trying to retool in their career. I want to see if we can rebuild the non-credit part of higher education to really be that arsenal that really brings people into associate and bachelor's degrees. Definitely, I'm interested in the shift in the economy. Right now, I recruit a lot of employers across the nation that come to Tennessee with our Economic and Community Development Agency. And we're seeing a huge shift in, more technical needs. And so, my goal now is to try to really work on how can I be an advocate for closing that gap in the digital divide, especially for communities of color, low-income communities, and rural communities especially. So, those things are kind of top of mind. And I think, last piece is just to continue to take care of myself. I don't think I was doing it as much before. But now I get a walk in twice a day. I'm reflecting more, I'm praying more, talking with the Lord more. And I think that part has really helped me to be stable in, really what is an extremely rough year last year for me personally and professionally. But this year I'm a much stronger than I would have been had I not gone through 2020.
Thank you, Kenyatta. I mean, that's so wonderful. I love how you mixed in being solution focused coming into this 2021. And thank you for the personal reflection. Last year was rocky on a lot of fronts for a lot of people, but I think if we all look at it, there's some disciplines that we were able to bring into life in order to move forward. And so I'm happy to hear that you have done that and you feel in a much more successful place, not only with the things you prepared on the business side, but things that you prepared on the personal side as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's good to talk to you. Good to see you. And as always, stay positive, test negative.
I love it. I had not heard that before, Kenyatta. Well, I just want
I got one for you every time.
Yes. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined us on this critical conversation. Thank you for paying attention to how education has been impacted by COVID-19. We want you to join the conversation. Please leave your comments in on this particular video. Want to hear from you. Thank you for joining. Tell somebody about the critical conversation exploring COVID-19 and its impact on education.